DJRockinRob, and welcome to Chord Winding School. Chord Winding School is where I show you all the different methods for winding up your extension cords, speaker cables, and anything else you want to wind up. Rope, hoses, anything really. These fundamentals will let you understand what's happening inside the cord itself. And without further ado, let's get started. Okay, there are many ways to wind up your cord, but I've got it down to about 7. There are 7 distinctive different ways that I'm going to show you. Of course, there's variations on each of them, but we're not going to get too far into that. We're just going to show you the basics. First up, we have the most widely known way to wind up your cords, and that is over the arm. Over the arm is probably the worst way to do it because there's no relief in the wire itself on how to do it. Now, I can't show you the wrong way to do the over the arm because, well, I just can't unlearn my techniques, because I believe that if you do the over the arm properly, well, then it can work for you. But it's still just not a good way to do it. Now, if you go and do the over the arm, you're going to find out that this coil wants to twist, or it goes all wonky, and it's just not a really good way to do it. And if you ever try to just throw it, it gets all knotted up. My technique is about relieving the tension inside the cord, and you know, whereas I'm doing a little bit backwards here for the camera, there's still relief happening there. So, over the arm. Everybody knows it, and a lot of people like it. I do not. Okay, the next one I want to tell you about is the over-under, or the reversed coil, or some other fancy name like this one. The over-under is one for the theater people. They really like it, and even some professional musicians, stagehands, really like the over-under, because with the over-under, there's positive twists and negative twists, and at the end of the day, or at the end of the coil per se, at the end of the coil, as you would say, it's essentially just straight out. It just. Now, if you take a standard coil, which is actually my personal favorite, a standard coil extension cord, and you take one end here, I'm gonna use this box as my third hand, and you just take it straight out. See all these coils, all these twists in the wire? Those are part of the negatives that I'm talking about, because if you just do it straight, those coils are still in there. Look, you can see them right there. In order to get it out, you have to twist it out, right? But with the over-under, you don't have to do that, because the over-under, 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 come on, almost there. There we go. Now, with the over-under, use my helping hand again, we just go straight with it, and there are no twists in it. It's actually a really positive, a really good way to do the chords, just not my personal favorite. Back when I was learning how to wind chords, my mentor is an over-under guy, and I just could not master the technique of how to physically get it to do that. Well, now you can see that I do that because, well, I'm a little older, a little wiser, and I've had a lot of practice. Yeah? Besides, my mentor also does it upside down, which is really, really unique. As you see me do it, it's all, my hand is right side up, but, or the top of the coils are right side up. But his method, the tops of the coils were down, and I really couldn't get that. So that moves me on to my favorite, the just straight up coil. Now the real trick in this is to let those coils that you're putting in here go down the line, and then when you're done, you have a very nice and neat coil of cable here. And all my cables, with the exception of a couple of these example cables, have Velcro, so it's good to go. Also, one thing I like about this is if you grab the proper end and you're just in a hurry, you could just throw it out there, you know? It saves a lot of time, you know? That's my favorite. All my cables are properly trained. That's an interesting concept. Your cables are properly trained. My wife said something funny to me a few months ago. She works as a breakfast host at a hotel here in Lubbock, and she has to vacuum up the breakfast area. Well, we went on vacation and somebody else had to fill her position while we were gone, and she came back and her extension cord was just a mess. And she texts me, she's like, "Oh man, now I have to retrain my extension cord." It was hilarious. When dealing with just standard 16 gauge extension cords, you know, a lot of different methods aren't going to have that big of effect, or, you know, a positive or negative. It's all about personal preference. But when you start using thicker cable, like this is 16 gauge. This is 12 gauge. This is a much heavier duty extension cord. It can handle a lot more electricity. This one, we'll just say for simple electrical purposes, this is a bottleneck for electricity. If you try and pull too much electricity through this cord, the cord itself will heat up and could potentially cause a problem, whether it be melting the sheath, making a mess on the carpet, or literally catching on fire. This one, the 12 gauge, handles electricity a lot better. You can get a lot more amps out of this big thick one. But this big thick one doesn't like the over-under or over the arm, so you're left with just the coil. And as a comparison, think about your garden hose at home. How do you wind that up? Does it just go wherever it wants? It goes wherever it wants because you didn't properly take out all of the twists in the line. Do you have kinks in your water hose? Well, that was a badly wound cable too. Or perhaps you wound it properly, but when you went to use it, you didn't unwind it, right? And that's a pretty important thing, because just as I showed you a minute ago, using the helping hand, I pulled it out. There were all those twists in there, and then we had to unwind it. Well, one quick way around it is to just walk out your cord. As I untwist this, that cable is straight. No problems. It'll conform to any shape that we ask it to now. But if we had it preloaded with twists in there, then it wouldn't go, you know, like straight down the wall, you know, for uplighting, or maybe you have a long speaker run or something. But anyway, it's important to get the twists out. If you don't get the twists out, then the twists stay in, and they may cause you problems while you're trying to put your cord away. Now it's time for the electrician's loop. This one obviously came from electricians who use extension cords massively, and it's just been properly named, the electrician's loop. This is one of DJ Mikey Mike's favorite cord windings, and now I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to go through 3 different iterations. There's the original, the Mikey Mike, and the double. Here. Okay, down here on the ground I have a 100-foot extension cord. Here we go, 100 feet. This is my 100-foot extension cord. This one is a 50, and this is your standard 25. It goes all the way down there and even out the door, because this hallway is not 100 feet long. But what I want to show you is the effect that these loops have, because with the standard coil, a 100-foot extension cord becomes a little bit tough to handle. You know, depending on how big your coils physically are, you know, are they small coils like this, or are they big loops, right? The bigger the loop, the more opportunity there is for tangling. So, the electrician's loop. I'm going to run through it really fast because I just want you to see the effect. If you want more specifics on how to do it, then I'll be happy to teach you, and we'll do that another time. So, engage, fast forward. Alright, so the electrician's loop is complete. And we took a 100-foot extension cord and we made it about 26 feet. I know that says 74, but if we start at 100, 74 is 26 feet, right? Now, with an electrician's loop, I have never seen it. I've never seen an electrician's loop not. You can take it, you can wind it up any which way you want. It just doesn't matter. You can put it in a tub with a bunch of them and you can pull it out. I don't understand the physics behind it, but it just never tangles. And one of the favorite features behind the electrician's loop is the unwinding, right? So I'm going to use my helping hand there, and now we're going to unwind it. That's pretty neat, huh? I love how it just kind of pulls out, you know? But I'm not a fan of the electrician's loop because of the positive and negative bends in the cable itself. Have you ever left an extension cord alone, coiled up for an extended period of time? Well, the cord develops a memory. And when you go to unwind it, you can still see where the coils were. And with the electrician's loop, you have positive bends and negative bends, or left and right. So if you leave it in there for a long time, or you have a lot of stuff on it and it compacts, now you have a wavy cord, and I'm just too OCD for that, right? So now I'm going to show you Mikey Mike's method, which is a small variation on the electrician's loop, but a pretty neat one. So let me go get the other end. And now Mikey Mike's version of the electrician's loop. We just took that 100-foot extension cord and wound it up into what we did. Wound wound it up into an essentially non-knotting 12 feet. This 100-foot extension cord is now just 12 feet long. You gotta admit, the electrician's loop definitely has some space-saving abilities, but it's not very time-saving, in my opinion. But in the end, like I said, it is a pretty safe space-saving technique. Okay, now I'm going to show you the double electrician's loop. I learned this while flying kites. Big, powerful, professional style kites. And we're talking, you guys all know that I'm close to 300 pounds, right? These kites have enough power to lift me 20 feet in the air. It's a lot of fun. But the lines are like 300 feet long. And you need a quick, simple, easy way to wind it up and then again deploy it, and the coil just doesn't work. Don't ever wind kite string around your elbow, but this is the double electrician's loop. It looks a lot complicated, and when you're first learning, it is. But once you've done it a few hundred times, it's real easy. There it is. There is the double electrician's loop. Now, let's measure it. Put it back here at our 100-foot mark. What do we got? 87. It's just as long as Mikey Mike's version. That's kind of neat. Now, let's undo it. We talked about a lot of different styles. We talked about the coil, the over-under, the over your arm, the electrician's loop, the double electrician's loop, and the one I didn't talk about was the spool. You know, those actual wind-em-up spools. And I very recently learned a new way to do it, which I don't have time to show you right now. But until I learned this new way, I hated the spool. I hated the spool because you'd have to undo the entire roll. But now, with this new way, we can you hook the middle of it onto the spool and then you wind it up. It is pretty neat, pretty clever. We're going outside now. I'm going to show you what I can do with this 100-foot coil. So, if rolled properly, you can just take this 100-foot coil and throw the whole thing out there. When's the last time you tried to do that? Did it stop midstream because it got tangled and fell to the ground like a ton of bricks? Not with the Rockin' Rob way. I learned all these cord winding techniques because my dad was a painter, and he hated rolling the paint machine lines, and I didn't develop it. I was watching a movie, I think it was K2, and the mountain climbers were using their leg in place of their elbow, you know, because doing it over the arm is not a good way to do it. But when I saw them rolling these hundreds and hundreds of feet of rope around their leg, I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. So that's how I started rolling my dad's paint rig lines, and it worked out so well. It worked out so well that it taught me about the twists in the line. If I didn't really fling the twists out, because as you're coiling up around your leg or even on your arm, you're developing twists in the line. So you have to really fling those twists down the line. And that's why in the beginning I said, because of my technique, well, I know how to get the twists out of the line when I'm doing it over my arm. So doing it on your leg was really neat, and it taught me about the twists. That in turn translated to garden hoses, which used to be really hard for me to wind up until I learned about the twists in the line. Then when I was in the Navy, we would have to throw the leader line to the pier. You know, it's just a 150-foot string with a big weight or a ball at the end, and you would just fling that ball and it would unravel the wire or the rope down to the pier, right? Then they would use that rope to tie onto the mooring lines, and you just pull it back, right? So I got a lot of practice in throwing the lines, and that's where the proper technique for the coil came, because now I can just throw the coil. As you just saw, I can throw an entire coil and have it unwind in the air. So that's a little history on why I know so much about winding cords. It's not just that I'm OCD, it's actually that my career has taught me these methods. So this is DJRockinRob saying thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I'm here for you guys. Thanks for watching Cord Winding School. I'm out of here.